Okay, this is the last presentation for Chapter 5 on activity-based costing. And what we'll look at are some of the costs and benefits of implementing ABC, how managers use it in activity-based management, and then we'll compare activity-based costing systems and departmental-based systems. And this is where we were. Okay, we started out in this chapter talking about how broad averaging under costs and over costs products or services, right? And this is an important thing to remember. And when we say broad averaging, we mean using like a single plant-wide overhead rate. Okay, and then they came up with guidelines for refining a cost system and distinguishing between simple and activity-based systems. Okay, and remember the activity-based focuses on the activity. Okay, that sounds dumb, but that's what it does. All right, and then we described a four-part cost hierarchy, and that was the unit, batch, product sustaining, and facility sustaining costs. And then the last presentation, we costed products or services using activity-based costing. So here we are, and you may recall that a department costing also uses multiple bases. However, that procedure is still rooted in an allocation system that uses a basis that may or may not correspond to how the resources are actually used. And that's good. That's what's good about activity-based costing. And as we've seen, implementing a refined cost system is not an easy task, and it requires considerable resources of the company. If it's badly done, it's possible to have exhausted these resources without an improvement in the company's costing. Okay, so ABC is generally perceived to produce superior costing figures due to the use of multiple drivers across multiple levels, but it's only as good as the drivers selected and their actual relationship to the costs. Obviously, poorly chosen drivers will produce inaccurate costs, even with ABC. Okay, so it doesn't guarantee more accurate costs. It really depends on the quality of the input. An ABC is an alternative way to allocate cost. It is generally considered to be more accurate and more costly to implement. A company should consider refining their cost system when evidence begins to suggest that their system is flawed. For Plastim, the example company in the text, that occurred when they were in danger of losing business due to their higher price. Okay, they thought they needed the higher price, but it was all just because of an overhead allocation. Because a number of critical decisions, such as pricing, whether or not one product should be pushed over another, whether or not a product should be dropped, etc., will be made based on cost information. Okay, best efforts should be used to arrive at a cost that is fair and reasonable for each product. The goal isn't to attain a cost that serves the current purposes. Okay, and this is an imprecise science, and differences of opinion are likely to occur. Some people in operations, could absolutely care about ABC, and they strictly focus on the operations and like just cost everything at the end. And there's a big fight between Joseph Kaplan, who invented activity-based costing, and a guy named Elijah Goldratt, and he wrote a book called The Goal. And if you're interested in operations management or anything like that, it's an easy summer read, and it's kind of fun. The guy's wife leaves him in the middle of it. There's some personal stuff going on, so it's interesting. Whoops. Now here are some situations that suggest a refined cost system could be helpful to a firm. Okay, signal number 1 means that we're following a broad averaging method, almost certainly unfairly allocating the costs among our products, unless the products are quite similar in terms of the resources used. Okay, signal number 2 means that the overhead is primarily at the unit level, which means that a single allocation rate will ignore differences in resource use. Signal number 5 means that managers who know the product believe that the costs are inaccurate. Okay, and pay attention to this. Ask why they think so. Okay, and then check it out. Because people that are work with the product right on the line frequently know a lot about it. Oops. Now, there are different problems with implementing ABC. A move to a more refined cost system is not achieved solely within the cost accounting or accounting department. This is a firm-wide effort, and it should be acknowledged as such. The issues discussed here help ensure that the implementation is successful. Often, the implementation of ABC generates open and honest discussions and possible improvements that could be made within the firm. The other thing that could happen is that people could get really ticked off. They could be angry. They could feel that their jobs are at risk or that they're being criticized for the way that they're doing things. Okay, so you've really got to be careful on the how you implement things and how you treat people. You definitely need the support of top management. Create a guiding coalition of managers to help it throughout the value chain for the ABC effort. Educate and train employees as a basis for employee empowerment so that they're part of it, they're not being replaced by it. And you want small, short run success as proof that the implementation is yielding results. Okay, and remember that nothing's perfect. Now, ABC is really the first step. Once the revised information, the updated cost of products has been calculated, the next step is for that information to be used for the firm's decision making. And ABC isn't only for manufacturing firms, but it can be successfully implemented in service or merchandising firms as well. Such firms have overhead that needs to be allocated, and that overhead can be organized into activities that drive the costs in a manner uh, just like we observe for a manufacturing company. Okay, all right.